Inside the Combat Information Center of a U.S. Navy destroyer, an incoming anti-ship ballistic missile appears on the radar. The crew must verify the track, calculate the trajectory, clear the decks, and authorize a launch. From start to finish, they have anywhere from 9 to 20 seconds to react. When that authorization finally comes, the ship fires a high-end interceptor, often a standard missile costing over $2 million. Its target is usually a cheap, mass-produced, one-way attack drone or missile built for a fraction of that price. The stark financial asymmetry catches headlines, but the actual terror for naval commanders is physical space. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer relies on a vertical launch system, or VLS. It carries exactly 90 vertical launch tubes. Once a missile leaves its cell, that tube is empty. Crucially, these systems cannot be reloaded at sea. To restock, a destroyer has to completely leave the combat zone and transit to a friendly port. Every engagement starts a countdown to 0. A hostile force firing cheap, continuous volleys does not need to bypass the ship's advanced radar or defeat its interceptors. They only need to force the ship to fire 90 times. After that, a $2 billion warship becomes floating steel, completely defenseless. This satellite image shows the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. At its narrowest point, the waterway is just 18 miles wide. An anti-ship ballistic missile covers that distance in under 2 minutes, leaving ships with almost 0 reaction time. To guarantee an intercept under those severe time constraints, U.S. naval doctrine dictates a shoot-shoot-look approach. Commanders fire 2 interceptor missiles per incoming target. If an adversary launches a cluster of 3 cheap drones, the destroyer burns through 6 of its 90 cells in seconds. The USS Carney lived this exact math during its recent deployment in the Middle East. Over 8 months, the crew engaged Houthi-launched weapons 51 times. They successfully intercepted dozens of drones and ballistic missiles, defending the airspace around the clock. Ship commanders cannot afford to override the double-shot doctrine to conserve ammunition. When defensive systems fail, or when interceptors aren't fired, the incoming projectiles easily rupture holes. The resulting fires and structural damage paralyze modern vessels instantly. Every incoming drone intercepted is a tactical victory, but firing those interceptors drains a finite resource. A fleet surviving on the surface is actively accelerating its own forced retreat. To fix the magazine drain, the Navy is rushing experimental technology to the front lines. Systems like Helios, a 60-kilowatt directed energy laser, are being tested on active destroyers. The laser tracks an incoming drone, locks on, and burns through its fuselage. A laser costs mere pennies to fire. More importantly, it possesses an infinitely deep magazine. As long as the warship's engines can generate electrical power, the crew never runs out of ammunition. While waiting for lasers to mature, militaries have turned to a political solution. By forming massive multinational operations, allied nations attempt to pool their collective interceptor inventories. Sharing defensive systems across different countries requires transferring operational control, or OPCON, the strict authority to dictate military action. Delegating that authority across a multinational chain of command is a steep bureaucratic hurdle, especially when radar operators only have seconds to authorize a strike. Experimental lasers are limited by weather and power constraints, and multinational coalitions are incredibly complex to manage in real time. These efforts buy commanders a little more time, but the ocean's surface remains entirely exposed. Modern militaries utilize A2AD, or anti-access area denial. This strategy relies on overlapping networks of coastal radars, drones, and missiles to blanket the ocean surface in lethal force. But that entire threat matrix stops exactly at the waterline. A nuclear-powered submarine navigates beneath this network. Because it remains undetected by enemy radar and surface drones, it doesn't need a stockpile of multi-million-dollar interceptors to defend itself. From this undetected position, a submarine can launch cruise missiles, striking coastal launch sites and command centers directly, without ever exposing its crew to the frantic reload trap occurring above. Interceptor capacity determines how long a ship can survive an attack. Absolute invisibility ensures a vessel is never attacked in the first place. Advanced air and missile defense interceptors are now the absolute baseline for modern conflict. Militaries must manufacture and deploy thousands of them simply to earn entry into a contested theater. Firing a $4 million weapon to destroy a cheap drone is not a failure of economics. That specific interceptor is safeguarding a $2.5 billion vessel and the lives of 300 sailors. Yet, relying entirely on surface defense is a mathematical dead end. To project offensive power and dismantle enemy networks, the Navy must shift its focus to the silent service, operating deep below the reach of the drone swarms. The era of the untouchable surface fortress is over. Tomorrow's naval wars require surviving the relentless attrition above the water while striking from the dark.